and we will put the link to the video in Confluence. We are going to talk about distribution features and improvements which were done for 19R1 Acumatica version. So let's start with physical count improvements, and Yelena, please go on. I will stop sharing. You can start.
Hello, everyone. I will tell you about our improvements in physical inventory count process and the unit cost calculation. We have some problem in physical count process. The main problem was the first one. It was not possible to preview the total cost, which will be calculated in the PI adjustment created from the PI count before the release, and also make some corrections if necessary. Also, it was not possible to adjust cost manually for lines with the positive variance quantity in the PI review form. Next problem that we have in warehouse setting for average default return costs, and also we have 5 default returns cost value settings, and this value setting was not applied to the cost calculation in the PI review, and every time the last cost is used. Also, it was not possible to include items with zero book quantity in the API count list for the inventory types with the item-specific generation method. And in some cases, it could be possible to create 2 simultaneous PI count with the same inventory ID, and for the second PI, this inventory ID intersecting was just excluded from the PI. The improvement are divided into 2 parts. The first part is about PI generation improvements, and the second part about PI cost calculation improvements. In the first part, we add new checkbox, include item with zero book quantity in the PI to the PI types form. This checkbox is available not for a full physical count, just for physical count with the item specific. And if you select this checkbox, the inventory items with zero book quantity will be added to the PI inventory review form by default with set of location which there were item movements for the last 1 year period. Let's look this checkbox in the system. Open physical inventory types. I have a lot of PI types which I already created. And for example, I have for retail warehouse the physical inventory types with selection method list of items, and I can check include items with zero book quantity in PI here and save it. And let's prepare physical count with this type. And you can see in the preview tab, we have some lines with zero book quantity. It means that for this location, this item has been moved for the last 1 year. And also this item, all set of item is locked for the full location set, and you can add item on another location manually. Also, we make some changes to prevent user from adding the same item to the multiple PI counts which are in progress. And now it is not possible to prepare several PI with the same set of item location. And you will see the error with the the intersecting inventory items and intersects in location. And you can also exclude this item for PI count if you want. We add new area in the prepare physical count form in inventory selection tab and location selection tab. Excluded inventory items and also excluded location. If you add some items or some location, these items and location will be excluded from the PI. Let's create some PI. Let's continue with this PI. For example, I want to generate PI. And I see that some error is returned to me. And I can see the details in the trace. And system return me the intersecting items that I have already the PI with these items and all set of this location. So if I want to continue generate this PI, I need to exclude item, this one, and I add item in the excluded inventory items. I can also exclude some location, but for this case, just item will be enough to include this item. Also, when I exclude any item, it also excluded with all set of location from the preview and will not be added to the PI review form, and also these items will not be locked during the PI count. Also, I can exclude any items or location from the full physical count. Let's select full physical count for the wholesale warehouse. one. And also I can exclude any location or any item. Let's exclude, for example, this item. And you can see there is no any this item machine in the preview. And I can generate PI. Okay. And let's also generate PI item specific. I didn't finish this process. Now I can generate this PI also. And we have some new inquiries in which you can see the physical inventory locked items. For example, in retail, you can see that these items is locked. This item is locked with this PI count. And for the wholesale, I have this one full inventory count, all inventory items, and I have one item which is excluded. One more changes which we were made. Now we calculate the PI book quantity as quantity on hand minus quantity so shipped. We exclude in-issue quantity from the book quantity calculation because since 2017 R2, we create an issue from the SO module with the SO shipped plan type. So it is not needed to exclude it to calculate also an issue quantity because physically issues and transfer which is created from the inventory model physically good movements is occurs when you release these documents. The next part about the cost improvements. We made some changes in UI, and we added some column and move some action to the action area under action menu. Set enter to 0, set not enter to skip, and cancel PI. Also, we added new column estimated X variance cost and final variance cost and manual cost checkbox. Let's open physical count. In physical count review, you can see this new column. and these actions. We change the calculation rule for the items with positive variance quantity and negative variance quantity. Firstly, you fill the quantity physical. System calculate the variance quantity, and system calculate cost just after finish counting actions. So here you can see just variance quantity and unit cost is calculated by the next rules. For the lines with the negative variance quantity, the cost is calculated according PI adjustments rules according to the cost layer data. For the lines with the positive variance quantity, the cost is calculated according to the item warehouse details and warehouse default return cost setting for the according to the evaluation method rules. For example, I have for retail warehouse setting for average default return cost is average and FIFO default return cost is last. For the specific valuation item, the cost will be taken from the corresponding cost layer, and if you don't have this cost layer, the cost will be calculated as the last cost for these items. And for the standard cost will be taken from the item warehouse details. So let's fill the physical quantity for the some items. And I press finish counting. And now you can see that estimated X variance cost is calculated and unit cost is calculated according to the rules which I already explained. The final X variance cost will be filled upon the inventory adjustment release, and in general cases it will be the same, and it will not be changes after release. So also you can adjust unit cost for the positive lines, positive variance quantity lines, And as you adjust the unit cost, manual cost checkbox is selected. We also added the new checkbox to the inventory preference form, release PI adjustment automatically. So now you can clear this checkbox if you want just create the PI adjustment and you need to review it before release. You can clear this checkbox. Or if you have any problems with the release of adjustment, you can also delete this adjustment and create new one after make some corrections. Let's open inventory preferences. And as you see, I cleared the release PI adjustment automatically checkbox. And now under complete PI, sorry. I can see the adjustment. And you see in the adjustment, the cost for the positive lines is taken from the PI review, and manual cost checkbox is also copied from the PI review form for the positive lines. The lines with negative variance quantity can be divided by several lines according to the cost layer. Also in PI review, you can again adjust the cost for the positive lines if it is needed.
Elena, excuse me, can I ask a brief question on the screenshot?
Okay.
Just a line with the PI line number 20, just a fourth line from the end. Is this why is the receipt number empty for its F4? Is it 5 for valued item?
I can explain. This is some cases which I want to show you. When you can see here that I have for these F4 items, I have -1 and -4 here, and +4 for this selection. But on the cost layer, I have just, as I remember, 4 pieces the cost layer. That's why the 1 pieces will be calculated from this positive line, and cost will be taken from this. That's why this is like a virtual cost layer. It will be created just after adjustment release, and now we cannot fill this receipt number because you don't have this quantity on the cost layer. Is it clear?
More or less. So now it will be possible to enter negative transactions for FIFA valued item without cost layer, or just there is an exception for PI originated.
It is just exception for the PI which have a negative and positive quantity. If you have positive quantity, which will be enough for negative, uh, you can release such adjustment.
Okay, and
The system will take into account this quantity for the positive line. This quantity we have 5, and it will be enough to cover this big minus.
can you return to the adjustment, to resulting adjustment, just to take a look how this fifth item?
Sorry, I see it, but you don't. Yeah, this this line, last one, we have just 4 on the cost layer with this number, and this one will be taken from this first line, and just after release you will have the cost layer for 4 pieces, and this receipt number, and system will calculate 5 minus 1.
Okay, I would have expected that all 5 issued items should be issued from this new cost layer, just to balance the cost. It will be just more consistent in terms of it will not be FIFO logic, but but we will have the cost the same. The input cost will be the same as output.
We wanted to make it by 5 rules because it will not be clear how it calculated, because the user will expect it that 5 items should be issued according to the 5 rules. That's why just in such cases which you don't have enough quantity, these last 1 pieces will be taken from the virtual cost layer, which will created after adjustment release.
Okay, it's not that straightforward. It's controversial, but okay. Let's if the behavior is it is okay. Let us explain it. That the design it's understandable.
Because before it was such behavior that you firstly process the positive line. After that, you process negative line from this positive line, and as we see, we have a problem, and the user cannot understand, and we have a variance between cost in adjustment and cost in PI review. That's why we make such logic.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and now you can adjust something here for the positive lines, or you can delete if you understand that something is not correct and you can delete this adjustment, and PI will be in data entering status again. You can make some correction here again, and again complete PI to create new adjustment and release adjustment. Okay, now you can see that final variance cost is filled, and it is equal the estimated variance cost, and PI now in completed status. And some words about setting, about freeze setting. Now warehouse will be unfrozen only when the API adjustment had been released, and we removed freeze inventory API count is in data entry state checkbox from the warehouses form, and for the backward compatibility we add another checkbox and freeze inventory API count after finish counting to the API type form. When you create new API type, the default value is false, and we don't recommend to select this checkbox, because if you select this checkbox, some problems, some difference could be could occurs when you start make shipments during API. You can see here, when I select this checkbox, I get a warning. And also I will have this warning on the generate API form. Upon upgrade, release API adjustment automatically checkbox will be selected, and unfreeze inventory API count after finish count checkbox will be defaulted from the warehouse freeze inventory API count previous checkbox with the reverse value. In case on API type warehouse is empty, unfreeze inventory API count after finish counting will be unchecked. That's the main point for this feature. I see you have a lot of questions.
Thank you, Elena. We have multiple questions in the chat. So now booked quantity equals to quantity available for issue?
Yes.
Okay. The second question is, how are the cost for negative variance lines calculated for FIFA valued items? Is the oldest cost layer taken?
For the FIFO?
Yeah.
Yes, they're oldest cost layer according receipt number and receipt date and receipt number.
Okay.
So just let me clarify the question. So if we issue again, it is the same scenario when we process negative variance for the FIFA valued item. So if we are going to issue from more than one cost layer, there should be differences. The PI review form will show the cost according to the oldest cost layer, but on the adjustment form,
no, it will be calculation is the same. It's when you finish count, the system calculate the cost for this one line from the oldest cost layer, from the earliest receipt. They start calculated, and the cost will be the same.
so it will split. It will actually.
Yeah, it will be split. I show you again in the system. We have here the lines, but it is splitted in adjustment according to the receipt numbers from the earliest receipt to the last receipt. And you can see also PI line number reference to PI line number and PI count reference number. In adjustment, we also add this column and this field. Now you can understood, for example, for the 20 lines, the cost is calculated from these even 4 lines.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Also, for example, if you have for average cases when you have different account, sub-account, and you have several cost layer with different accounts, sub-account, you will see splits. You can see for this line, for example, it is splitted because I have 2 cost layer with a different cost account and sub-account ID.
No questions? Okay, so let me continue with auto write-offs in sales order invoice. First of all, as you all know, we have multiple clients who use e-commerce integrations with Acumatica. They receive sales orders together with payments from external systems like Amazon, eBay, and others. So in our reality, we create a sales order together with an applied payment, and sometimes, for some reason, there can be a recalculation on the invoice creation. The recalculation, we assume that taxes can be recalculated on the invoice creation, or freight, or whatever. And accountants spend a lot of time just to review small discrepancies between the payment and the invoice. It takes really a lot of time to review all the invoices with 1 cent difference, just to be able to relieve them. That's why this small feature, small enhancement, was really demanded. What we did, first of all, we added a new checkbox setting, disable automatic discount update. Oh, sorry, it's the text from another presentation. Let's delete it. We added the checkbox auto write-off on the order types form. For each order type, you can select this checkbox because we decided to put it on the order type because in most cases, customers set up separate order types for each e-commerce source, like Amazon, Shopify, and so on. That's why we can definitely understand that this sales order came from external system. If this checkbox is selected for the order type, this means that we will automatically calculate a write-off on the sales order invoice creation if the payment was applied to a sales order. Automatically calculated write-off balance is checked against the customer's write-off limit. If the outer rate of balance is supposed to be greater than the customer's limit, it will not be filled in automatically in the SO invoice. The rate of balance will be 0, and an accountant used to verify it manually. If the difference between the invoice amount and the payment amount is inside this rate of limit, we will calculate positive or negative rate of balance on the SO invoice application. So we added one field in the grid and one field in the header area of the sales order invoice form. These two fields show the balance rate of and the total balance rate of for the document. The rate of amount can be either positive if the invoice amount is greater than the amount of payments applied, or negative if the amount of applied payments is greater. The field, the balance rate of field, is editable, and if you would like to change it, you're welcome. It's manually edited field, so it can be used even if the rate of balance was not calculated due to the limit, to the customer's limit. An accountant can just put here some value, and a rate of transaction will be created. If a payment is applied to multiple sales orders, the system creates auto write-offs only on the closure of the last payment application for the invoice, which is related to the last sales order to which payment is applicable. If you have multiple payments, multiple sales order and one payment, the write-off will not be created on the first sales order release. Even if there is a difference, we will just we will change the applied amount, and afterwards, when you will reach the last sales orders invoice, the write-off balance will be filled in with the difference between this last invoice and the rest of the payment. Same works vice versa. If multiple payments are applied to the same sales order, then the system will write off the discrepancy for the last payment application on the closure of the SO and last payment. As for batches generated for positive and negative write-offs, you can just have a look at this chart. Well, let's continue in the system. I will show. Okay, so first of all, go to the order type and select this checkbox if he needs this functionality and is going to use it. Then I'm going to create a sales order. With one line, just one line, and create a payment for this line. Let's assume that I have, that this sales order and this payment came together from some external system and were just push to Acumatica via API or whatever. Just load it. So now apply to order amount equals to the order total. Let's just emulate that something happened and the sum was changed on the invoice. I will create a small discrepancy in the order quantity just to show it. We do not care why the discrepancy between the invoice amount and the payment amount was occurs. So when I create the invoice, you can see the rate of total is -10. If we go to applications, we see our payment. And because the balance of the invoice is less than the balance, the amount paid, which is applied to the sales order, we will need to create a balance write-off, which is -10. So if now I just release the invoice, it's too long, okay. We can go to the payment and in financials batch. Oh. So here in a batch, we can see that the transaction was posted to bad debts, which is write-off. Also, I can just edit the balance write-off manually. For example, I think it should be -13. In the customer, I have the write-off limit 20, so -13 should also work. Okay, great. So as an accountant, I can just edit the automatically calculated balance write-off, or I can just release the invoice as is. For this feature, that's it. I think we have a question in the chat. Will this write-off affect taxes? Well, if we receive the discrepancy because of difference in taxes, yes, because, well, sometimes you have a sales order from March and the invoice is closed only in September, and in this, because of this delay, tax codes or some tax rules can be changed in the government, and when we create the invoice, we always recalculate taxes. That's why this discrepancy can occur if the tax was recalculated. Okay, any other questions? No questions? Okay, so now one more question. Okay, you mean if the amount was changed due to something else? As I said, we do not care why the amount was changed. So normally the write-off limit, which is set on the customer, supposes that this difference, that we do not care about this difference. I mean, I set it to $20, but normally it's about $1 or even less. That's why we do not care where the difference occurs. So we just calculate the rate of amount, positive or negative, depending on the difference of the amount of sales for the invoice and the payment. Okay, any other questions? No? Fine. So that's all for today. See you on the next session, which will be on Wednesday. We will present our new WMS system in web, in mobile, and I will tell you more about automated warehouses and WMS. Thank you all for attention. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.